All right, Monday, October 27th, 25, 9 o'clock, board staff discussion. Any particular order you want to do here? I guess we could stick to the Rockwell building to start with. Brandon,
Okay.
you want to start that out?
I was just going to kind of give you guys an update on that to start with, and we can discuss wherever that goes. The current building that we have in design is a 7-bay building with an additional bay for a wash bay on it, and it'll fit on the north side of that roadway. If we demo the current cold storage building, if we leave it about 10 feet away from the existing building, that way we'll be able to utilize the entire existing building as either a cold storage or semi-warm, depending on what we end up putting in there. So the building's moving forward.
Is it 7 bays plus a wash bay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now the current building is a 7-bay building, and with it being utilized as a cold storage or semi-warm storage, that gives us more than plenty of space up there for what's stored in the cold storage now and what would need to be in there in the future. We've opted to take out a specific office in that building. We're going to have a larger break room with a computer station and stuff in there because I want to start doing electronic time cards with the guys. So it'll be utilized that way. I guess we were looking at some other options for orientation, going north and south, but the adjacent property owner to the east is a pretty big farmer, and he utilizes that road that goes east and west right there. So he was going to have a pretty big issue with that roadway being closed, so that north-south orientation was not a possibility at that point. So the place we're entertaining right now is on that north side of the road where the existing cold storage is. And it'll essentially go from the right-of-way line all the way to the existing building. We'll keep it far enough off the back property line that everybody can still utilize that alley area that's established itself back there.
Other than the person to the east, any other objections down there?
No, that was the only one.
What was going to be the advantage of looking at the other option before the farmer objected?
The north-south option would have allowed us to keep the cold storage also. We would have just had an additional building we could have maintained.
Yeah.
So it just was an easier way to get it to fit. So yeah.
Yeah, would have been able to keep everything in service the way it is while it's being built too.
Yeah. So there have been no inconveniences or interruptions. It would have just worked.
Go
ahead. Sorry. Oh, I'm just curious. Is there any other options as far as doing it in phases that would, if anything changed as far as, because obviously it's going to cost more if we can't utilize the same cold storage.
Yeah, correct. Well, as long as we maintain the current building,
okay,
and we use that as a cold storage, then we're good. If we have
the other configuration, isn't going to necessarily cost anymore.
No, it's just we're gonna have to get rid of the old cold storage, which I say it's just another storage building. It doesn't mean a whole lot, especially with the amount of space we have in the old building. So as long as
you were gonna get rid of one or the other anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. There's just not enough space with all the buildings on the site, so we'd have to lose something if we don't cross that road.
Okay. And then the makeup of the way that the doors are, obviously the prevailing winds in the winter are not great. And so,
so that's, I would rather have southern facing doors. We obviously have snow equipment, so northern facing doors aren't the end of the world. We'll just have to pay more attention to doors freezing shut. Snow being in the way wouldn't be an issue. Yeah. Southern facing doors has more propensity to have drifting in front of the doors. But like I said, we literally drive snow equipment, so that's not really an issue for us.
Okay. You don't need the office really.
No.
There anyway.
No, how it works out is with the size of the break room and everything we're gonna have in there, it can be utilized as an office area also. There's gonna be plenty of space in there.
So when is the plan for putting it out for bid? January, February?
They haven't given me a specific updated time schedule I don't remember what the first one they proposed to us, but they haven't given me any kind of update.
Sounds like they're pretty hungry right now.
Yes.
Yeah, they came to us with the first proposal of one building type. And in our first meeting with them, you said, and I agreed, that we want to look at all different building construction types to see what would be the most cost effective, but they only came to us with one. So then we asked them to go back, bring us the rest so we can look at every option.
Similar to the shops that we've already.
Yeah, so I know they're looking at construction like we did in Ventura and Thornton, which is kind of a wood frame, pole barn style with the steel sheeting and everything on it. And they're also the one that they proposed to us originally is the same steel frames we have at the Mason City or West, that the engineering building, that style.
I think you need steel beam with I-beams over the doors.
Yeah. Yeah. If we had a masonry building, we could put the I-beam frames around the doors. But short of that. Yeah, so
Sounds good to me. Keep plowing forward.
So the next issue we have is that semi-fire that was out in Mallard a week ago or so now. The lane that the semi in has about 35 feet of asphalt that was destroyed by the fire, and the adjoining lane has about 20 feet that was pretty well damaged. So we're gonna have to patch both lanes on that road. They say they can get a mill out there and the paving crew out there and be done in one day if they can just close traffic. So we could either do flaggers and pilot cars and swap traffic, which might take 3+ days by the time they're done, or in one day if it's closed, which is obviously very inconvenient because Mallard is a highly traveled road.
One day is 24 hours or just during the day while they do it and then open it?
If everything goes right, it would be during the daytime and open at night. So that.
Oh, is this, I got to correlate with George closing down the shop?
Yep.
How much?
They're within the next couple of weeks, they're probably going to shut down operations.
So you want to get it done?
Yeah.
My only suggestion, and again, back to the signage, is there something that you can put out 2 or 3 days in advance and the road will be closed Friday
I have Don working on signs right now.
so that people can.
Because my only concern is the big caveat was if things go as planned, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, if things don't go as planned and we're at 3 days,
Oh, yeah.
would we have been further ahead if we just did what we did for 3 days and had less of a disruption, or are we going to have 3 days of a road being closed?
What they told me is if everything went wrong on them, as long as their plant still produces asphalt, the longest it would be closed would be the main day closure, and then the next half day to finish it up if they close the road. If it was pilot cars and extra traffic, it could go from 3 to 5, from 3 days to a week long, the 5-day work day. So they think 2 days is the maximum if it's closed, but they intend to get it done during the daytime of the first day.
Is there a price difference between the two options?
Yeah, because there would be a lot of traffic control and other things that are going to cost a lot more.
Roughly,
I'll probably say that's $3,000 to the cost of the
But
project.
wouldn't it come out? I mean, with the accident, is the truck's liability insurance going to cover this?
We've tried this before, and we've had 2 cars burn up on our roads, and I have yet to get an insurance company to actually pay us for the damages. So we'll see. It seems possible. The preliminary talks ahead with the insurance company, but so far everybody else has been able to get a lot of it.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine closing it, but just.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely get the word out there as much as I can as soon as we have any kind of date. We'll put signs up and I'll see if I can.
Signage back on 122 before they take the turn.
On B20 and 122 in both directions.
it'd be Killdeer and 65 would be the two options.
So I didn't want to close that road without talking to you guys because it's going to affect a lot of people.
Yeah, that road will. So this is car insurance cover your Don cost as far as the signs and
It's all part of the project, so yeah, I'll charge it back in there.
anything else? Rest for the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Eric.
Yeah, I'll kind of give you a little Reader's Digest version. I wrote a few notes down here, but some of you, I know Casey for sure, and Carl probably familiar with the last several years, Clear Lake PD kind of spearheading a possibility of a local enhancement on the ISICS system. Our public safety radio system. Actually, I think the engineer's office just went to it as well. But after learning more about it, because ISICS was new to me when I started the job here, Floyd County didn't have time, so I'm still learning. But in learning more about it, I feel it's more of a county-wide issue rather than a Clear Lake issue. The local enhancement, there's been a proposal last year from Motorola that put the difference between an actual tower up in the county of about $2.3 million. And then also had a proposal that saved close to $600,000 to put a tower on top of the water tower in Clear Lake. And that seems to be the best option if we were to go forward with this. But it would provide better in-building coverage in Clear Lake, Ventura, some of western Mason City. Much better portable coverage, like radios on law enforcement or firefighters' hips, and trying to get out to the communication center through their radios. Provide much better coverage, especially in the western half of the county, and that would include Swaledale, Thornton, as well, where there's a lot of dead spots. There's a major dead spot on South Shore and Ventura in that area for law enforcement or fire, EMS trying to get out on their portable radios. So that would enhance that. And like I said, it's more of a county-wide issue because it would affect, with increased coverage for the rural fire departments, western Mason City, Clear Lake, Ventura, and include law enforcement, EMS, fire, engineer's office. And that's really kind of a safety issue. And obviously in my profession, my job, I'm all about planning and preparedness. And so one of the things that I think is benefit to adding local enhancement is if we have is a redundancy factor. We have one tower in the county that we rely on, everybody relies on, that's just south of my office at the State Patrol. And if that tower were to go down and have a catastrophic failure, we'd have some major communications issues in the county. We'd be trying to rely on some of the towers in the counties surrounding us. So that would be a huge dead spot for Mason City and Clear Lake. Also, in that respect, and Sherry from Motorola is here also, but there's been 2 locations in the state in recent past that have experienced, kind of a catastrophic failure where it takes a year to kind of get those towers back up and running. So
They lost an entire tower.
there was one that I know that lost an entire tower, and then one that was partially
Was there an incident or?
Tornado direct hit in Montgomery County, and then also in Adair County. That one was also hit by a tornado. And these towers, the one that's proposed takes 12 to 18 months to get. And with that instance, I think both cases we expedited everything. So it's 12 months.
We get hit by a tornado right now, takes a tower out. What are we doing?
We're relying, like I said, on communications from other towers in surrounding counties, which leaves a big hole right in the middle of the county.
Would we convert back to VHF temporarily?
I don't know that we could, honestly.
What you would really do is you're going to be living in line. It takes a lot. I mean, you'd have to have 20 to build the actual tower. It takes a lot to take these towers down. They really are built for mission critical. They have a lot of redundancy involved. But if a tornado hits it, the first thing you would probably do is eventually DPS to bring in the mobile command centers. Because if we do have mobile command centers like that, it's not going to have the same coverage. It's not going to have the same approach. But this would easily replace it to be able to help. And that's.
How does that compare to repeaters on vehicles?
The towers are the
Just in general, how would those fit into the mix?
as far so these towers that come actually are a tower that it's a shorter local enhancement brought into the area to provide coverage. The mobile repeaters, as long as you have access to mobile coverage, which is driving around in a car, those repeaters need to have coverage of the system to be able to assist. So these are all tools in the banks that we would use to try to live a long life or deal with damage done by.
Because we've all been talked about this privately, but my big question was, if you have signal to your vehicle, then if you had a repeater in the vehicle, you should be able to reach your handhelds with that, right?
It's not mission critical. You can't cover studies on it. And it also is restricted on the number of talkers that you can talk through that mobile repeater. So it changes a lot of dynamics when you're working with mobile.
My issue, and from my understanding of the mobile repeaters, the issue with that is whoever's utilizing them is coordinating with everybody else that's on the scene with who's using the repeater and how to turn it on. And it's a process, and in an emergency, obviously, you don't want to try to be figuring out who's going to be running the repeater mobile, the vehicle repeater, turning it on, and whatever steps you have to take. So
That's your job, planning.
I know. Well, that's what I don't want. I don't want our public safety agencies to have to worry about, trying to figure out how to turn the repeater on in their vehicle and make sure that nobody else has theirs on, because it affects the quality.
I'm not on the same summer boards that these two are, but we have one issue that's been plaguing us for the last year. The tower, you're familiar with the tower situation.
The VHF tower that we have.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we utilize that tower in this project to maybe get it updated and upgraded? And
I think that would be a whole separate issue.
So I call these vertical assets. So it sounds like you're mentioning a different vertical asset, a different location. Studies on how to solve where the coverage is needed, looking at what's existing in here for the ISICS system, and then try to add local enhancements to get you the coverage where really you want to take advantage of a vertical asset that was available that gives you the most bang for the buck. And we did look at several of the vertical assets available in the water tower that we have proposed gives you the most benefit and it addresses those coverage needs using that vertical asset. That's why we chose that one. And you need to think about that.
we have an issue with the tower now, and I believe Brandon or Casey was gonna bring it up at your November meeting, maybe. Could be wrong there, but can we utilize that to put these, are they repeaters on this current tower, Eric?
They're not repeater. The current tower that we have is a primary.
I think that's what she's saying is basically, because when we looked at this last year, I believe we had asked you to go out and look at that location because we've been grappling with the tower. And so from what I'm hearing is your engineering, you're not getting the biggest bang for the buck at that location because of the elevation and just proximity. And a couple other things that were discussed last year were there are pitfalls with the repeater, but it sounded like it was more of an inconvenience at the time, which I might be wrong. And my struggle with it, I'm not saying we're not there, was that people didn't necessarily try the repeaters, even though it was suggested, and that for 2.3 million, we could buy a lot of repeaters. Because someone came back to me and said, "Oh, well, repeaters are really expensive, and you're going to have them in every single emergency vehicle." Well, I'm like, bet you can buy a lot of repeaters for 2.3 million dollars.
Yeah.
But that said, I know these things constantly evolve, right? Technology, and so, your comment leading into this, new to the job, we're familiar with the ISICS system, didn't have Floyd County. And obviously we don't have a crystal ball, but I just don't want to put up this very expensive tower and all of a sudden, whoop, we got new technology 3 days later, and this is all of a sudden.
Yeah, we talked about that. The equipment that would be installed with this project is the newest, the tower that is currently used, the technology is about 25 years old. Is that correct?
Some of it, yeah.
And so this would be, technology that's been brought forth within the last couple of years. So it's the
Latest and greatest.
yeah.
Okay. We're in looking at the proximity, biggest bang for the buck, if you will. How does this work in the event the one next to the state patrol goes down? We've got this new one up in the essentially northwest portion of the county. Seems like it's benefiting that side of the county a little bit more. The one goes down over on the eastern side. Are we going to ping onto our new one, or will they be bouncing off of counties over in that quadrant because they're better?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Is that a good
The thing about going down is it's very dynamic and what does it mean or what is causing it to be down. In Montgomery County, the tornado knocked the actual steel tower to they bend. They don't fall like trees, they bend, which is not a typical thing to have happen. They are not built you had to have a tornado directly to get it. In Adair County, you had high winds that, affecting some of the equipment on it. So in general, and it still works. And the one in Adair, it still is functional. But you had to get some replacement fixed. And
it's hard because you're kind of, and nothing against you, but you're talking on both sides, right? Because you're saying that, if it goes down, and now you're saying, well, they really don't go down. So which one is it?
you have to plan for if it can.
Yeah.
The question specifically is you would be relying on both towers. I mean, you need the Mason City Tower for the coverage that you have today. It's not like one is over the other. It's now added a couple of towers, local enhancement towers in White County that are up and running that they spray further.
Okay.
So you benefit from what your local.
So if the tower does go down and let's say we have to use someone else's different county, is there a cost that goes with that? No. Okay.
Those talk groups that you would talk on, all of your neighboring counties around you, you have the ability to talk on regional talk groups, and you have the ability to share those powers on.
And again, I'm not opposed to it, but like anything else, right? It comes down to money. And then we're looking at various pots of money. Does the county pay for this? Does it come from E9 or 911? Does it come from the various local taxing authorities that still use it? Do we come up with a formula?
That's what I was saving the best for the last. The financing of it. The new proposal, I did receive a new proposal for adding the local enhancement to the water tower in Clear Lake. And that new total with discounts that are effective through or available through December 12th of this year.
Well, that's better. I thought you were going to say November 1st.
No, it's a few more days.
Okay.
Is actually just under 1.7 million. Like I said before, the actual tower last year cost was 2.2 million. So that obviously probably would go up too if we were to get a quote on that or proposal on that. I will mention that E911 does have in their budget for this year $400,000 earmarked for a down payment. So that's something that would bring that down to 1.3 million. My question, I guess, the purpose of bringing this to you guys was the discussion about the potential for an essential purpose bond to cover whatever E911 would not cover, because there is a possibility that E911 would be able to fund a little more than $400,000, I believe. So just like everything else, this price went up about $300,000, I think, from last year's proposal. So it's not going to get any cheaper in the long run. So we talked a lot about redundancy, but I think in blue sky conditions, it's going to be a real benefit to our first responders in the areas that are not covered by portable coverage. That, when an officer needs assistance, a lot of times they're outside of their car, they're using their portable radios. And if they can get out to dispatch, that's a major concern. And that's why I said, I think it's a countywide issue and, not just a Clear Lake issue. I know that they've been the ones that kind of spearheaded the last couple of years trying to get this, but I honestly think it's a county issue.
Is there other funding sources out there, grants, stuff like that, Eric?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
So what's the difference between that 2.3 and the 1.7 that you're talking about?
The 2.3 was the actual, putting up an actual tower.
Okay.
From the ground up.
So you're saying the 600,000 we're saving by not starting from.
Plus lighting the ground and everything.
Yeah. Are there any better rates that come with those emergency bonds versus, or it's just floating bond like any other bond?
I know, I think it's like any other bond.
Okay.
I
didn't know if
Floyd County used the essential purpose bond.
I didn't know that the state or the federal government had, because it's for unique circumstances. It's a low interest, whatever. Okay.
Would that be paid back by the 911 fees?
Well, that's in question too, because of,
What
how the state is doing with,
allocating
and another thing to think about, and it's something I talked with Adam about a little bit, before this meeting here a couple of weeks ago, is the maintenance agreements, year 2 through 5. I mean, there's a cost there too that hopefully E911 would be able to pick up. And those proposed are, year 2 is $75,000 and then up to year 5 is $87,000 a year. So I would hope that E911 would be able to cover those costs at least.
I think one thing maybe worthwhile is you and Adam sitting down with Heather and exploring the bond issue and figuring out just what that looks like.
Yeah.
And what are the various options for financing it. And if we would do the bond, can 911 pay that? Right. And so instead of draining the reserve that's sitting there, can they pay
On a lease
program plus those fees that you're talking about? So I would be interested in a bunch of different scenarios that we have to tackle this before decisions made from my perspective.
And I can surely do that. And like you said, at least it's not November 12th.
Yeah.
But that's something I'd want to do with Adam and Heather then really soon.
Are you taking this to your 911 meeting then also?
Our meeting, we only meet twice a year.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, we just set, we set a budget unless there's stuff. So, and when I say we, I mean, this encompasses every jurisdiction.
Right.
Each representative from each community has 2 on there. And so we're just an equal like every other community in Cerro Gordo County. We don't have any more sway, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have computer sheets that show all the different coverages and everything. I've seen those. That would have been really nice to have up here on the screen when you're describing this.
Yes.
So we could see the circles and where the coverages are, where the gaps are, that kind of thing.
So certainly provide those as much as I can.
That would be nice to have those, but in future meetings and when you come to present,
Sure.
have you go to the podium with your
It was a little last minute thing because I
the computer screen up and you can actually show all that stuff really easy. And then they can share it on the people at home watching and everything. So everybody will be able to see what's going on.
So you have a small window, correct me if I'm wrong, to sit with Adam and Heather and get back to us?
Yeah, the system discount and the ISICS contract discounts, which total almost $400,000, is the deadline is December 12th.
I thought there was 1 million in there, almost 1 million.
But all that was allocated in the budget, are you talking about 911?
Yeah,
It's reserved.
the reserves.
Yeah, there's stuff there, but in an effort to, if we would go higher, the whole committee would need to meet, which we could convene a special meeting and talk about it. But 400 is what was allocated if various parties wanted to pursue options.
I like the idea of seeing the different options and how that pencils up.
So I guess I would, yeah, urge you to do that sooner rather than later, and then we can probably reconvene just us to talk about what the options are, and then if we need to call a special meeting with the other players, go from there.
That's good.
Anything else? Maybe, I mean, you have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, so.
You know, I'm Sherry Schmitz, your direct account manager. I've been doing this and helping counties like yourself and agencies in Iowa for the last 11 years. So I've helped all your neighbors go through these kind of conversations. One thing I'll also do for Eric is I will get him, you know, the marketplace push Motorola to be able to provide leasing opportunities. So you own the equipment. It's about spreading out the cost. And I can get you examples of that municipal lease information to compare to the bonding, look at the rates. Some people have chosen to choose leasing as a option and then they paid off because there's no penalty to pay off that lease and you can get an essential bond and pay off the lease later. We do have a couple of examples that have done that. Some people have used the lease the entire way. It's just another tool for you guys to look at and compare. I'm not going to say that I don't know.
So if we're done leasing and renting the tower, will you guys come take it back off the water tower and take it?
It's what it's about. It's not, you're not renting.
Yeah. I also think
Using a water tower, you now don't have to worry about loading as much of, you know, you've got where equipment is mounted. You've got to make sure, but you talked about a different tower, about trying to add more strength to that tower. You don't have that when you're working with a water tower.
I don't think it's adding more strength. I think it's a matter of
just trying to utilize that asset that we already have.
Yeah.
You know, and if you do have those numbers, I mean, I guess it would be helpful for us, in my opinion. The only communication I received back from the inquiry on the tower we already had was that the other one is better, right? And so I would be curious what engineering documents you still have from looking at our current tower. How much more coverage are we getting for the additional 1.7, right? And I understand maybe the other thing was that even if we have the tower, there's a lot of stuff that has to go on the tower. So maybe the tower isn't as expensive as I think it is. It's all the stuff that goes on it.
Right. And if you are comparing two existing vertical assets within your county, it's about whatever has to be done at that site to make that vertical asset be functional for the equipment we got to put on it.
Okay.
Where the difference is where we were looking at some highway property, just dirt on the ground.
Yep.
And you have to build that tower. That's what that additional 600 plus was because
Right.
now you're.
Because we were looking at the location next to the interstate a few years ago.
Yeah.
Remember Adam was talking about it? I think. I don't know if it was by where we have piled some of the. Anyways.
Yeah.
Might have
And
been.
that's why it was.
Like said.
Somewhere else.
Okay.
And they've got that when you have to.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're just making that design decision on your guys' part to utilize that existing vertical asset and save costs.
And again, I just want to reiterate, it's I understand and appreciate that this is a county issue. And we're the county board of supervisors. That said, each incorporated area, right, has their own council, their own police chief. We've got our elected sheriff's department. And so this really has been coming from one region, which I represent, and I support it. But I think we also need feedback from the Mason City Sheriff or the Mason City Police Chief, you know, Sheriff Epperly, you know, those people, because it's
Oh, the fire department.
if it just comes down to us, like we all have an equal vote. I think you're coming to us because you're saying it's county issue, and then we're the only ones that have the jurisdiction to issue
Right.
a bond
Correct.
for something like this. And so that's why it's sitting at our table. But
And I think that discussion from the other entities should probably be coming from the ENIT one board. That would be the
Sure.
easiest, obviously.
yes, yep.
So anyways. Just anything else you want to add?
I'm just gonna quickly mention the fact that the ISICS system was, put in and awarded, went out to RFP, awarded one roll back in 2015, and it was deployed across the state, over 90 plus sites. Now we're over 100 sites that make up this radio system for public safety throughout Iowa. And your agencies, ISICS, I don't know the exact date, but it was roughly around 2018 or so. So you guys were able to take advantage of that original deployment of ISICS, which was designed for mobile coverage across 95% covered with mobile coverage driving around the car. Having that design with that smaller guys enough coverage for your public safety agencies to decide it's better than what we currently were using before. And you went from VHF, or you guys actually 700. So you went from what you had before to ISICS as is, with no local enhancements or anything. You took advantage of all your tax dollars that were being spent on this statewide system. And you were able to move that in and utilize it since 2018. Now you're looking at trying to add coverage for operational use in buildings and portable. And this is a very common conversation that your neighbors have all been having, as well as, okay, we have interoperable communications, but we need operational in-building and portable coverage to meet our goal safety. So I agree with you about having more of those public safety voice in front of you saying, yes, this is it. And I'm confident that they will do that for you. But I wanted you guys to know how you guys have been utilizing the system, to understand and know the system very well. Both PSAPs are connected with the system. And, you know, a lot of your neighbors, like North County and Floyd County and others, and Wright County, they all added a couple of towers, whatever is needed. That's what's talking about the one tower to get where there is a lot of buildings.
So, question with your familiarity with, like the Floyd County one was one that you mentioned. And I don't know if you've had conversation with your colleague over there or not, but how did they fund theirs?
That was general purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Majority of these local enhancements across the state, they look at all the financing options. They really narrow in on the either lease or essential services bond, and that's what a majority of them have done. This the essential services bond. Do not have to go out to the community to vote on it because of the essential services. It is something that you guys could look into and back to these guys for financing too.
You know, obviously talk with Adam and Heather on that, but I want to mention, I think Floyd County built theirs up from scratch. They were using VHF before this, so I think their general purpose bond was close or around to $6 million, and that funded 2 towers and all of their radios and all vehicles, portable radios and everything. So, and then talking with my colleague in Floyd County, they're very happy with the system as of right now, but they've been on it for less than a year, so, or close to a year.
And it takes 2 years to build this stuff out. So, you know, it's anywhere from 16 to 24 months. And with having an existing vertical asset, you can get closer to the 16 to be able to get it operational.
Anything else?
Oh, in the meantime, you talked to Senator Campbell and make sure they don't change the funding formula in Des Moines for how we get these E911 dollars, and we can continue to fund it. So
Be nice.
Perfect time for a rival, Doug. So, before, we drop this or convene this, just wanna, can you and Brandon talk and come back to us with a better plan on the other tower?
Tower, tower, yeah.
That's still-
Well, we'll try, yeah.
That coverage map is what you really need to have up here because that shows all the different options and how it covers. That's just what we have to see.
Yeah.
So
Tom and Brandon and I talked about it a little bit a week or two ago on the current tower. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but we're still faced with we have to do something. Yeah. And it's been on our plate for a year now and we haven't moved forward with it. So kind of like to get it dealt with. That said, did anybody else got anything else? We are done at 9:41 and back here at 10 o'clock.